Hello and welcome to Comedian versus Economist. My name's Adam and we're once again joined by my little older brother and real-life economist, Thomas. Welcome back, Thomas.
Yeah, g'day, Adam. How'd you go? How'd you go without me? Get by?
Look, I definitely didn't try and replace you with AI. That's not what happened. No, good. I did a bit of an experiment. You should go and check it out if you haven't listened to last week's episode, or you haven't seen it. More importantly, head over to at CVE Podcast on YouTube. I actually spent way too long editing the video for last week's episode, which was all about how I used the Track My Brown Twitter account to help kill live odds during AFL broadcasts. Lots of memes, lots of GIFs, lots of AI-generated images. So, yeah, I'd really appreciate it if you went and had a look. And subscribe to the YouTube channel while you're there, which is smashing it, by the way, blowing up, Thomas.
Hey.
Subscribers up the wazoo. So get on board at CVE Podcast on YouTube. But Thomas, today, massive show coming up. As always, we're looking at charts. If you want to follow along, you'll find them on Facebook and Instagram at CVE Podcast, as well as on YouTube, of course. US tariffs are the highest they've been since the 40s. And just like Sinatra did then, Trump will say, I did it my way. Some countries are spending huge on defense. Others are sprucing up to garden. And some have been renovating to house. It's all about what's important to you. New data suggests money really can't buy happiness, but it could buy you an airfare to go live in a happier country. But first, Thomas, inflation expectations in the US have skyrocketed. People think it's going to be great.
I think this is one of the cases where you're reading the chart upside down.
US inflation. What do we got going on there?
Well, yeah, no, So what we're looking at here is so just if you are watching the YouTube, just ignore what Adam's saying.
I'll have a chart up by now anyway. Don't worry, we'll have the chart, so you can just feel free to speak to the chart rather than to me.
Yeah. So what we're looking at is consumer sentiment from the University of Michigan Consumer Sentiment Survey. Oh, yeah. It's tanked. It's like just fallen off a cliff to sort of like one of the lowest levels on record. At the same time as inflation expectations have spiked. So households 5-year ahead inflation expectations, they're at the highest level since 1993.
Right.
Yeah.
What was inflation doing in 1993?
Oof, I can't remember. Lollipops are a bit expensive, but I couldn't tell you.
Right.
No, I mean, that was sort of coming out of the 90s recession. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not too sure.
I heard Jerome Powell say this morning, actually, he thinks inflation from the tariffs will be transitory. But I do have a recollection of hearing the word transitory before, and then things stuck around for a long time.
Yeah. Mohammed El-Arain was slamming him for that comment, saying it's way too early to talk about transitory, particularly when you talk about tariffs.
Right.
Yeah. So
inflation.
He also said he was going to look through this data. He thought it was noisy and that it wasn't supported by the real data. But
I wish that we all got the opportunity that economists get to look through data. Like my next performance review at work, when it comes and says, "Look, you're just not where we need you to be," then I can say, "Look, I'm choosing to look through this data and." I think let's focus on the next quarter and see where we're at.
Yeah. No productivity improvements till 2026.
This dip will be transitory, and I'll pick things up again in sometime around July.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so I don't think you can just dismiss this out of hand. Particularly the other one they've got is the University of Michigan's, this is the next chart, financial situation a year ahead. So like where are you going to be in a year's time? That's at the lowest level on record.
Yeah, right.
So I don't know what's going on in America there. Like it's what Jerome Powell's saying, like it's not backed up by the hard data. Like the economic data's still kind of robust enough that unemployment hasn't risen, inflation's not too high, all the things that typically make people feel bad.
Right. So this is just like a fluffy opinion piece in the newspaper where this is just like hearsay and innuendo from people who think things, rather than he's going, well, I've got data that says things aren't that bad.
Yes. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's right. But it does matter because what that says, if those things hold, the financial situation a year ahead holds at record lows. Consumer sentiment holds at record lows. That starts to create a momentum where they're starting to rein back spending. They're starting to increase their savings buffers. They're cutting back on retail spending, and that then starts to feed into your broader economy.
A self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yes, that's right.
Right.
Yeah.
What does it do to the? So that would kind of, how does that affect the share market? I guess that would start to eat into that too, because people start pulling out of nothing good. Yeah.
Nothing good. Yeah. Like particularly consumer facing businesses will start to struggle. Apple, Amazon, so on. Yeah. So it's interesting. It's just trying to think like what's actually happening in America at the moment on the ground. I think it's just the uncertainty, and I think a good chunk of the population think we're heading towards dictatorship.
Yeah, wow.
The evidence is, it's there if you want to look for it, I think. It's pretty
just the question of who will be the dictator. Is it Trump or is it actually Elon Musk?
Yeah, or Peter Thiel, or who knows?
Oh, who knows who he is?
Right, yeah, I see. Yeah. But the other thing in this, and this is the next chart, is that this is like just such an American chart. So while consumer confidence has crashed, there's a massive split between the top 30% of income earners and the bottom 30%. So the bottom 30% have tanked, but the top 30%, they're like, this is good times. We're up and away.
Right. Does that align with the sort of Democrat Republican? That's flipped, right? Like typically the Democrats are your high income earners and the Republicans are more of your working class.
Yeah, that's probably true. I mean that's how the data's playing out in the last few elections. Yeah, but like, if you were a dyed-in-the-wool Democrat who was also very wealthy, I don't think you're thinking things are going good.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And what does it mean for Australia?
Well, so far nothing, and this is why interesting. The other chart we got here is from the Melbourne Institute's Inflation Expectation Survey. That's anchored. Inflation expectations in Australia just a touch above 3.5%, pretty much bang on long run averages.
Right.
So yeah, Aussie consumers are like, inflation's whatever, no worries. Yeah.
Maybe we're just not as excitable about this stuff. We might actually be producing this podcast in the wrong country, Thomas. We could, if we were in the States, be like, yeah, man, those guys, they get it. They're excited about inflation and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, you also do have the highest tariffing president since World War II. So should we jump into that break? Do you have anything sensible to say?
Yeah, I do. Well, so what do we do with all this data? Like, do we just buy gold, a bunker, hedge our bets, buy a bank vault, and live in it with our gold?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think like Trump's political strategy is uncertainty and just the ground's always shifting. You never know where you stand. Things, executive orders come and they go, and that works really well for frustrating your opposition and dispersing any sort of attacks, because it's like people just don't know what to attack, don't know where to attack. Yeah, nothing sticks. So it's a really good political strategy in that sense. But an economic strategy, I think what we're seeing here is it's creating a sense of chaos in households and consumers who are then starting to freak out, and then that is going to have real economic implications at some point if you keep it up. So, like, I wonder if we're seeing that the chaos strategy. We're starting to see its limitations here. Yeah,
right. Security by obscurity, we used to say, which doesn't really apply here.
Cool, but it was some words.
Trump's. They were definitely words that we said. All right, Thomas, tariffs. Everyone's still talking about tariffs. What's going on with tariffs?
Yeah. Well, the U.S. Tax Foundation is a think tank over there. They've calculated the average tariff rate. If all the tariffs that have been announced so far land, and there's still a bit of uncertainty, but if they did, the average tariff rate would jump from about 3% up to 10%, and that would be the highest level since 1946.
Yeah, right. So that's tariffs averaged across the board from the US against everyone who they're applying them to.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So they obviously kept it low for a long time for a reason, right? Like what?
Yeah. I mean, it makes stuff cheaper. So, it's super interesting the way this issue has evolved to me, because like in the 80s and 90s, the tariffs were a labor protection measure, and sort of the biggest voice championing tariffs was the trade union movement.
Yeah.
And so it was sort of a progressive issue. And then on the other side of that, you had radical trade liberalization and just freeing up everything. And that was pushed by the economic right. And so, so typically the left used to be pro-tariffs and the right used to be anti-tariffs.
Right.
And then, so Trump's come along and flipped that, and because all the polarities are shifting a bit, and working class people now vote overwhelmingly for Trump. We're now seeing that, the right take up that mantle, and it's sort of like there's this sort of a bit of a confusion in the Republican Party about kind of where they stand. But sort of the idea is like firms were pushing for lower tariff rates because that made their imports cheaper. Which then gave them more room to increase their margins and then also pass on cheaper prices to consumers as well. And so sort of the idea was, we don't need to be manufacturing this stuff here where labor is expensive. We'll send the factories over to China where labor's cheap, and then that'll make the goods we're using cheaper. And so that was sort of like, that's the economic rationalist argument. And then against that was the idea that, well, like if you offshore everything, then you've got no domestic manufacturing industry, which means that your people all the jobs in manufacturing disappear. And that's what you saw in Rust Belt America, when a lot of that heavy industry manufacturing went offshore. Capital moves a lot faster than labor can adjust, and these large communities just didn't adjust in time, and you had high unemployment, which created drug use and deaths of despair and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So now it's sort of come back around, and now Trump's championing tariffs. And then I find it really interesting that progressives are very angry about tariffs and making things more expensive. And it's like, well, there's kind of a progressive argument for tariffs. I mean, there used to be that. So
and is this why Powell says it's going to be transitory? Maybe because he's like, if you're saying capital shifts faster than labor, right, and so it's going to take a while to stand up the capability and the capacity in the US, then once you do build that capacity, then for local manufacturing, then maybe that things start coming down again. Things aren't so expensive. They're not so hard to make locally. Or is that still too long term?
I mean, I guess in the sense it creates a level shift. Like if you can't buy, plastics you were buying from Chinese manufacturers, you now build them, do that domestically. That you now pay more for it, but it's a one-off increase in price. Yeah. And inflation is the change. So you'd see a spike in the inflation data, but then it would revert to trend theoretically.
Yeah. Right.
But I don't know that. Yeah. So that could be why Powell's saying we can look through it.
And are we seeing any impacts already?
Yeah. So the Empire State Manufacturing Index, manufacturing survey, that's seeing that prices paid has lifted pretty sharply since the start of the year. Right. Probably, almost doubled. Yeah. It's a bit of a choppy index, but yeah, it's definitely on the way up. And so
this is what who's paying what prices here? This is businesses paying the prices they're paying for goods, like to sell?
Yeah, that's right. This is manufacturing firms. So firms in the manufacturing industry are the prices they're paying for their inputs.
Right. So it's not the prices that people are paying for the goods that they're
No,
buying from the manufacturers.
Yeah, no, that's right.
Which
Yeah,
presumably
So
would also be going up.
well, they'd have to pass that cost on, right?
Yeah.
You would think, unless they've got margins that they can eat into, they're going to have to pass those costs on, and consumers are primed for it. Like that's the other thing with once consumers start expecting prices to go up, firms look at that and go like, well, now's a good time to raise our prices
Time to deliver. We can make a lot of people very happy with their predictions if we just jack our prices up.
Yeah. Like if inflation's not a story in the zeitgeist and you increase your prices, people go, come on,
Well, that happened with Coles and Woolies, didn't it? Weren't they accused of doing that? So when inflation kicked off in Australia and and they started putting their prices up, everyone was like, oh, hang on a second. Inflation's running at 5% and you've put your prices up 10%. That feels a bit grabby.
Yeah. Well, it's more like the prices of construction materials coming from China went through the roof, but cucumber prices didn't. But you can kind of go like, well, everyone's just used to prices going up, so we'll bump up cucumber prices as well.
Yeah,
that's what having inflation expectations in the zeitgeist can let firms do.
Yeah. I don't know. They've got all sorts of tricks now, like premium carrots. It's like I just thought carrot was a carrot, and then they introduced the odd bunch, and now the odd bunch is the price that carrots used to be, and we've effectively created premium carrots. All right, why don't we take a break here? We'll grab a word from this week's sponsor, and we'll be right back with defence spending, antidepressant use, and wages data right after this break. You're on Comedian versus Economist. You can send us an email if you like, cve@equitymates.com. or via the website, equitymates.com/CVE. You'll also find us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at CVE Podcast. But Thomas, defence spending, looking at some data here, this is massive. The US trounce everybody. What's going on?
Yeah. So I think it's interesting. So the context here is that Trump is saying to NATO, the European countries, you guys need to lift your defence spending budgets. You're relying too much on US to come and save you, and you're not investing enough in your own defense. So that's the argument that he's making, and US has been making that argument for a while, and Europeans have been a bit slow to respond. And sort of the idea here is that defense spending isn't immediately economically productive. Like a defense budget doesn't boost your economy. It costs you money. You've got to raise taxes to fund it. So if you can get a free ride with defense, that frees up money for other things. And that's sort of what the Trump's argument is, that European countries have been free riding. So we're looking at what
it's always called defense spending too, isn't it? Never attack spending.
Attack spending, yeah.
Like everyone in the world is only spending on defense. It's like who's attacking anyone? Like if every entity in the world only bolsters defense, then arguably everyone's fine. But
it's like
someone's doing some attacking out there, not disclosing it on their budget.
It's like missiles. These are defensive missiles. But attack is the best form of defense. I think
that's true.
Attack is a subcomponent of defense. So this is looking at the top 15 nations. US is almost half of the world.
Yeah, right.
So, and this is an annual budget. So they're spending $968 billion a year, which is almost $1 trillion a year on defense, which is just and that's half of the entire world. So
but isn't that partly because the rest of the world, look to the US for support, so Australia's like, well, we're going to spend a certain amount on defense, proportionately quite a lot. But ultimately, if we got attacked, we'd be tapping the US on the shoulder, like a lot of nations would, and going, hey, can you help?
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, that's right, and that's right, and that's the world order that's been in place for a while. But now I think Trump's saying, like, hang on, like, why are we backstopping the entire free world's defensive positions for nothing? You know,
Yeah.
I think the New Yorker in him is like, hey, you know, we're giving you protection. We need some protection money.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Right.
Yeah. And
So,
especially it makes it really awkward if he's going to team up with Putin and start,
oh, yeah,
like then everyone's like, oh, but we don't like Russia and Putin. And he's like, oh, yeah, but I do. So like if Russia starts attacking people using its defense budget,
yeah.
then and people start going to, we can't go to America if they're in bed with Russia.
Yeah, yeah. That's right. That's right. I mean, I think that's. I mean, yeah. If I think there's a could be an argument to made that what Trump's doing is he's siding with Putin just to put the fear into the Europeans, because without America, if they're going up against Russia, the Europeans should be very scared, and that's what you've seen. And they've gone like, okay, we're increasing our defense spending.
Yeah.
So if it's just an ambit claim from Trump and he actually isn't in bed with Putin or isn't a Russian asset, I mean, he might be a Russian asset.
Some big allegations coming out of CVE this week. Speculations, I should say, not allegations.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, I mean, there's a lot of people saying he's a Russian asset. I mean, I don't know. It's just. I mean, I saw a lot of memes around it. So.
In case you wondered where Thomas gets all of his data from, sure, they look like well-researched charts. They're actually just dressed up memes from Reddit.
Yeah. Charts are just nerd memes.
Yeah,
so
right.
US is $1 trillion. China's 235 billion. Russia's 146 billion. Germany, the top European, at 86 billion. So.
That's staggering, really to think that the US is almost 5 times bigger than China, their defense spending budget.
Yeah.
Mind you, China's making paper mache missiles and parading them down the streets. So
are they?
Maybe they haven't done that for a while. No, that was North Korea. Apologies, China. Okay. That was North Korea.
Yeah. Oh dear, you're going to get bombed.
Oh man, we are in so much trouble. I've offended China and North Korea in the same sentence.
Yeah.
After we accused Trump of being a Russian asset.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, the only other takeaway here is Australia. Little old Australia comes in at 11th place with 36 billion, behind South Korea, ahead of Italy. Yeah. So yeah.
To be fair, that was just one submarine.
Yeah.
We had a bit of a cost blowout on the sub program. We got one sub.
Yeah, it's parked in America.
Right, Thomas, finally on the show today. It's been a tough show, but I'm glad we've reached the antidepressant portion of the show. What are we looking at here?
Yeah, so this is global antidepressant users per 1,000 people.
Right.
So yeah, looking at who's on antidepressants as a share of the population.
Country.
Yeah, in each country. Yeah. So league table of which country has the most antidepressant use. Probably not surprising. US, far and away number one. 110 people per 1,000 people, 11% of the population.
Right.
Which is a lot just on. I mean, that's prescribed antidepressants.
Yes, that's over 10% of people are taking antidepressant medication.
Yeah. Well, yeah, in the system. Like, I wonder if there's people who are taking it who are outside the system too. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Like getting it through Mexico or somewhere.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that because the US medical system's notoriously expensive. So, I could imagine you go on antidepressants and then like, okay, yep, and I think I'm going to go find the black market option.
Yeah, right.
So I think 11% is probably a floor. Like, it's probably the real numbers could be around that or could be a bit higher.
Right.
Yeah.
Australia's right up there too.
Australia's right up there. Yeah, 89. So 8.9%. Yeah, right. That surprised me. I mean, Iceland's number 2 at 106.
Yeah.
Like, it's a pretty dark place. there's probably seasonal affective disorder.
Literally and figuratively.
I'm more meant literally. Like, because they talk about like depression rates spike in dark countries during winter because people aren't getting enough sunlight.
Yeah, okay. Well, I challenge that because
No.
I have in front of me the World Happiness Report.
Oh,
And the
right,
top
right.
countries ranked 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5: Finland, Denmark, Iceland, Sweden, Netherlands, according
Wow.
to World Happiness Report.
So Iceland's number 3 for
Iceland's number
happiness and
3 for
number 2 for
happiness.
antidepressant use. Well, antidepressants are working then. Is that the
Very
takeaway?
seasonal. Well, yeah. Maybe the next release of the antidepressant data will see Iceland kind of shoot up a bit, shoot to the top.
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, but they're interesting. Like they're all in the same sort of region. And then you go to Costa Rica at number 6 in terms of the happiness. Australia's at number 11th. Number 11th.
Number 11th. Right.
Yeah.
There you go. Wow.
Right. But what can we make of this data, do you think?
I don't know. I've been
Is there an economic angle here? I presume that we're can we say that it's like related to economic conditions?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I wondered if it was related to income, but then you look at like France is down at 50. So France, Germany, 50. So like they've got similar, GDP per capita to Australia, in the same ballpark, but like almost half as much antidepressant use.
Yeah. Right.
So I don't imagine it's tied to income. It doesn't seem correlated with income. Yeah, like I wonder if it's more
availability.
Availability. Yeah, I wonder if it's more like the medical system and the normalization of it. If, maybe in France, it's just like, yes, life is tough.
Yeah.
Just just deal with it a bit more. Whereas, Australia, I think like is interesting because like I think we have this idea of we're laid back, easygoing, full of leisure, always at the beach. And we have this national myth about ourselves. But the lived reality for most people, I think, is like everyone's pretty stressed. Like everyone's working hard. Yeah, it's
because they're listening to podcasts like this and all they're getting is questions and not getting any answers. So I think that's they're hearing this and they're going, oh, it's interesting. You've got some data. I expect he'll now tell us why this is the case. But no. Plot twist. We're not giving it. I wondered if this is like could it be an economic indicator too? I found this article the other day that was talking about some of the weirder economic indicators. And particularly, as we're talking about entering like recessions and things like that. And I pulled out a couple for you, Thomas. I want to get your thoughts.
Okay.
So the speed contractors return calls. Apparently, if you can get a contractor to return a call, the quicker the contractor returns your calls, the worse the economy is doing.
Wow.
Because that's often a telltale sign.
That's pretty smart.
In the US, there's the Marine Advertisement Intensity Index, which tracks the number of ads that the Marine Corps are running to recruit. So during tough times when people start losing jobs, the ads for the Marine Corps ramp up to go, hey, don't suppose you're looking for work. We got some sweet Marine jobs going.
Wow. We should check in with that one next week.
Yeah. The other one is, they say it's a leading indicator, which is the cardboard box leading indicator. So a sharp decline in the usage of cardboard boxes can indicate an upcoming economic slowdown. In the same way that that if we start seeing an increase, then that can indicate expansion because people are buying tons of stuff through Amazon. So something to keep an eye on. The other one that I really liked, the last one, is the male underpants indicator. Apparently, when there's a slowdown in men buying underwear, that indicates economic stress because people, like men in particular, just go, nah, these have got another few weeks to run.
I'll get another economic cycle out of these.
Yeah, there we go. So yeah, maybe the antidepressant thing is a similar thing. I don't know. All right, let's leave it there. Thank you so much for tuning in. Really do appreciate it. Why not subscribe to the show if you haven't done so already? Subscribe in whatever podcast player you're listening on right now, or if you're on YouTube, then smash the subscribe button. I don't even know if that's a thing. Yeah, do that. But yeah, thank you for tuning in. Really appreciate it. We'll talk to you again next time on CVE. Until then, it is bye for now.